All right, I am back at my favorite salvage yard, the one that I am blackballed from. I can never teach a class there again. And oh, look, I found what I'm looking for. I wanted a cool, funky chair. And you guys wanted to know, Sue, what's the story? Why are you never allowed to teach upcycling classes at the salvage yard where you had a store? We have to back it up, you guys. I can't just launch into that story without telling you some of the backstory. So I'm going to take this chair and I'm going to show you how I'm going to upcycle it. I broke my toe the day before, so I'm having a little trouble pulling the chair out. Just bear with me. This is going to be a long video, but I'm going to tell you a story about how I started in this business and how I got to where I am. And then that will lay the groundwork for me to explain why I am smiling, but I'm never allowed to teach there again. So how exactly did we end up here, searching for chairs in a warehouse in the middle of the winter? Well, let's back it up a bit. It actually started with the dot-com bust many years ago in San Francisco. But first, let's take a look at this chair. Look at the detail in this chair. That you guys, this is going to be so much fun. And here's my mom who said, how can I help? And I said, help me clean this dang chair. And she did a great job. And we're going to use First Step Prep, which etches the finish so that the paint will stick. And I'm using it on the wood and on the leather. And then I'm also scuff sanding the leather before we paint. And for this project, I'm using Martini Olive from my Use Hues fall collection, and I'm super excited to see how this works out. So back to my story. We lost everything. We tried so hard. We moved, we rented, we saved, we did everything we could, but we could not keep up with the dire straits of the economic situation in California. And basically, California let us know it was time for us to go. So Sue's Hues are meant to be blendable, but I'm doing a solid coat. So I'm going to speed things up a little bit and add a little bit of Sue's Puddin Potion. I'm putting it right on top. I'm just mixing it straight in. I'm not following any of my own directions. And look at the difference. See how it's kind of dripping there? And after a minute or two, it is pudding. It's going to make my job so much easier. So we ended up moving back to the East Coast and in with my sister. Bless her heart. And I mean that with absolute sincerity, because there were 2 families of 4 plus 2 dogs in a house with 2 bedrooms under 1,000 square feet for 9 months. So now we're going to let this dry and we're going to grab our Miss Lillian's original formula chalk paint, because that is the best for doing leather. And this color is Girlfriend. And Girlfriend, it is hot. So the key here is just to get the first layer on and do not worry about getting full coverage, okay? Just get that paint on and we're going to add the layers and build them up. And that's what keeps it soft, and that's what keeps the paint sticking on the leather. So after about 9 months of this complete mayhem, we got back on our feet, we got new jobs, we saved enough money, and we bought a house in Maryland. And we did what we always do. We found the house that nobody wanted. The best house on the block with the best bones and the biggest yard, but it had ugly wallpaper and carpeting. Y'all know you can take that out, right? Anyway, we totally scored. So as I'm putting on this paint, look what I'm doing. I'm dabbing it after I wipe it. See, dab, 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 dab. That is what takes the streaks out of the paint, so it looks more and more like leather. And as that dries, I'm going back to the green and adding another coat, and I'm doing kind of the same thing. I'm putting it on, and then I'm spreading it around, and then I'm dabbing it. This also creates an effect that I'll show you after we put the wax on. So we got the house, we moved in, but we had nothing left for furniture. I mean, zip zero. So I started searching on the side of the road, going to salvage yards, grabbing anything I can. I put it in the house, and it looks so sad. It all just looked so sad. So that's where I learned to teach myself how to paint furniture. Just jumped on YouTube. I read everything I could. I learned how to make my own chalk paint, and I just painted everything in the brightest, most fun colors I could think of, because basically I needed to cheer myself up. So now we're putting on the wax. Yep, Sue's Wicked Wax, you guys. So once we put this onto the Sue's Hues, that's what seals it. Do you see how much darker it's getting? We're like digging that in, and it's okay if you put too much. It can wipe right off again, so don't worry about that. Just get it on there, spread it around, and make sure you get all the nooks and crannies. So did I fall in love with furniture painting? You bet your chalk paint I did, and people started noticing it. And then I had an idea. What if? That's where it started, you guys. What if I could actually sell my pieces? And so I got to work searching for places that I could get in and start selling. So after I got a lot of practice selling at fairs and festivals and all over the DC area, I had another idea. What if I decided I would contact the salvage yard where I actually managed to find a lot of this furniture because it was damaged, and see if I could teach other people to do what I was doing by having a booth inside. Is that brilliant or what? I thought it was brilliant. It was pretty brilliant. So now that the wax is dried, I'm using a dry brush to go over it. And do you see it getting shiny? Look at it getting shiny. That's what happens when you put the wax on and then you buff it. And use whatever you prefer. You can use a brush or you can use a dry rag. Both work fine, but this is the act that will actually seal your piece and protect it against spills or scratching or flaking. So I got in touch with the sales manager and I pitched her my idea over lunch and she seemed really enthusiastic. But then it took a very long time to get approval from the higher ups, if you get my drift. For the record, it took so long because I actually had to have someone come out and inspect the pieces at my house to make sure they were worthy of being on display inside of the space. Y'all, this was a salvage yard. So there I was in this huge warehouse with no air conditioning and no heat, and I was as happy as a clam. I was meeting people every day. I was just sitting there in my little booth. I was trying to paint in it, but they said, no, you can't do that. And I said, okay, I'm just going to sit here and talk to people. And I was really invigorated by how many people were excited about what I was doing. And I knew I needed more room. So I forgot to mention that you can also burnish the wax, and I'm doing that with kind of a dull sandpaper. And as I'm going, do you see how I'm getting all those little ridges and speckles and dots? Yes, this is the effect that I was going for, and which is why I kind of dabbed on the paint. If I'd done this in strokes, you would have seen the brush strokes, but because I dabbed it on, you're seeing these cool little speckles where there's the light green and the dark green, and you get all these different shades of the same color with just using one paint. All right, so now I spend the next 3 days painting this pink back onto the leather. In retrospect, I wish I had painted a very light color first, okay, and then put Girlfriend on top of it. But at first I was like, oh, I kind of like the dark leather showing through. But then when I decided I didn't like the dark leather showing through, it took a fair number of coats to make the dark leather go away. Just go away. So just make sure that you sand in between every single coat, and I will continue with my story. As luck would have it, there was this little 1,000 square foot open space at the front of the salvage yard that I had never seen used before. And I was like, hello, can I use it? Can I move in? And after about a freaking year of negotiations, it was mine. So I don't know if you guys are starting to pick up on some of the red flags that were maybe pink flags at the time, but I was picking up on nothing. I was just so darn excited to start my business that I was not seeing the signs that even though so many people were rooting for me, there was a force that was holding me back and kind of rooting against me. Because here's what I've finally figured out. There are some people who never help you at all, right? They just do not want to come to your parade. And then there's some people who will help you until it looks like you're about to take off. And then they don't want to help you anymore at all because you're not the underdog anymore. And now you're a threat, at least to them. All right, we are getting to the final stages of this chair, you guys. We've got the green on, we've got the pink on, we've got the wax on. Now, I just feel like we need a little bit of sparkle. So I'm going to be grabbing my De Medici Tanglewood Super Shifting Wax. This is actually a super duper shifting wax. And I'm grabbing this color because it has a green base and pink highlights. Are you hearing me on this? So I moved in. I named my business Tanglewood Works because I was on Tanglewood Drive and that made sense. I was so happy. I was so proud. I finally had my own little store. I decorated it. I decorated the outside. I had an upcycled garden. People were coming from all over just to see what that crazy lady was up to, and I was in heaven. So I decided to put the wax on full, straight on, full coverage, and I put it all over the green. But the thing about this wax is that it's reflective, it shifts, it color shifts, but I lost the essence of that rich olive green. And I didn't want that to happen. It kind of went away. I was like, I did all that work and I want it to go away. So what I did is I actually pulled some of this off and then I just decided to go back and hit the highlights. How did I pull it off? I just used a little bit of clear wax, smoothed it out, and then I hit the highlights. And that I loved. So here I was happily running my store into the ground. I was so happy, but the sales just did not increase. They kept decreasing. And people came in to see everything that I was doing, but not to shop. I mean, they would just walk in, look around at all my beautiful, colorful, upcycled furniture and ask me where they could find a refrigerator. Do I look like I have a refrigerator? I mean, I was just totally losing it. So before I completely destroyed my reputation, I decided I needed to reach out. And I don't know if you guys know about this, but there is an organization of retired businessmen, business people, I've only ever seen men, called SCORE. And they gave me the worst advice ever. I'll explain that in another video. There were good intentions, but sometimes you get what you pay for. And this advice was free, and I took it. All right, so the last thing we're gonna do on this chair, second to the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add, this is Dragon Empress. This is a greeny gold, and I'm putting it along all of the upholstery tags. Now, let me tell you what I had to do here. I took all the green paint off, okay? I thought, I don't want the green paint, but then the wax had nothing to stick to, and it kept slipping off of the brass, so that's why I painted the green, and now I'm putting the Dragon Empress back on over that. But basically, I was told if I ever wanted to make it in this business, the problem, we were talking about two different businesses. I'm talking about an art business, and they were talking about a furniture business. I had to be in a bigger showroom. So now we are actually on the last step, and I really wanted to do this chair because I want to test how the metallic waxes, my super shifters, work on top of painted leather. I know they can go on leather. I know they can go on paint. Can they go on painted leather, and can they stay there? That's why I'm not selling this chair yet. I want to play with this a little bit and make sure I don't need to put on any other top coats on top of this. Buffing should be enough, but I got to test it. Y'all want to know if it lasts? I don't know. So what I'm doing is I'm actually trying to shade the edges. I tried out a variety of different super shifters. I ended up using Milky Way and Mira, and I really like the effect that it gave from all angles. That's the thing that makes super shifters different. Unlike regular metallic waxes that have a sheen on one side that's a color that you've chosen, and then from the reverse angle, it's usually just black or brown. My super shifters reflect different colors on either side. So you kind of have to make sure both colors work with your piece. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting it on thick, and then I'm just going to very lightly spread it out with a really soft brush to get the exact effect that I want. So I moved heaven and earth and made sure that I got into a larger showroom. That, again, will be another video on all the ups and downs of that journey. But for this journey, suffice it to say that I found a place, and I decided I would keep both stores open if I could. Well, the numbers don't lie. And halfway through December, everybody had chosen which location they preferred, and it was the new location because my sales at my original location had gone from abysmal to negative. I had to close the original store. I don't want to get into too much of the nitty-gritty, and I tried so hard not to burn a bridge, but that match was lit. I had no control over it anymore. Certain people were just not happy that I was moving on up, so to speak. So in an effort to just kind of keep some good relations between us, I applied repeatedly. All right, we're getting to the heart of my story. We're getting to the answer to your question. I applied repeatedly to different events that they were hosting at the salvage yard about upcycling, about art. They did this cool Friday night event where they had vendors, and I was like, I want to go, and I will teach upcycling for free just to keep this connection between myself and this business where I'd gotten launched. Okay, I was still grateful for that. Every single time I was ignored. Nobody answered me. Nobody returned my call. Nobody returned my email. This went on for about 2 years before I could freaking get the hint. So if you guys follow me, you know I still go to this salvage yard all the time. It's still one of my favorite places. And this issue has nothing to do with the floor staff or most of management, for that matter. So this is how naive I am. One day I go back there because I'm going hunting for some furniture, of course, and I run into one of the managers. We're chatting. She's a really great gal. And I said, I keep applying for these events. I don't know. I mean, who's in charge? Do they keep losing my email or something? And she looked at me with this kind of pity. You are so naive. But she was very kind. And she said, Sue, you are blackballed. We cannot get you in. We love you, but you are not allowed to ever teach here again, ever. And I was so appreciative that she was at least honest with me, and I kind of had to laugh about it. So that's my story. That's it. That was a very long story. I can't believe if you guys actually stayed to the end, but I don't have any hard feelings, but it has opened my eyes. It's made me a little bit less naive, And you may have heard the term new level, new devil. So I'm just making you this video to let you know that with each level of success that you get, more followers, you're going to get more hate comments. You start organizing events for people, you're going to get more complaints. You find a level of success and somebody out there is not going to be happy about it. And I don't know why. I didn't expect that and I didn't plan for it, but now when I see it, and I know it has nothing to do with me and to just keep on keeping on.